all the second piece of bookkeeping, we don't have, we're going to wrap this study up at the end of chapter 12. At chapter 12. So we don't have a whole lot more. It's gonna take us a few weeks to get through because we're not going all the way through the Tower of Babel. We're getting into the Tower of Babel. We're not getting all the way into that. And I do want to get up to Abraham, but we're not gonna get into a study of the life of Abraham. And I also want to, after we get done with the Tower of Babel, do the reverse of the Tower of Babel. Anybody know what that is?
What's the pits of hell?
No, when was the Tower of Babel reversed?
Pentecost.
Yeah, so I want to tie do a study tying Pentecost to the Tower of Babel. So we got about maybe three more lessons or so, maybe 4, depending on how it goes. So be just kind of thinking about what you might want to look at next time. Probably back in the New Testament somewhere. So if there's one of the books, one of Paul's letters or one of not Paul's letters, you should want to look at it. Just be thinking about that, and we'll figure out where we're going to go next. So there you go. Like I said, Kim's going to pick up my daughter. Not a dog. We got 2. That's not, especially when both of them are Australian Shepherds. But anyway, so the Tower of Babel. We're gonna kind of get to it, but we're gonna get to it in a roundabout way because there's some things here because how many of y'all really enjoy reading the genealogies in the book of Genesis? Yeah. I mean, that'll just kind of bless your soul sometimes. And I'll tell you the trick to reading the names is reading them with confidence and loudly. As long as you read it with confidence and it's loud, you're right. It doesn't really matter.
So are you gonna read all these names too?
No. And then I have special names for some of them, like I call Nebuchadnezzar Uncle Neb. But especially in this, we can kind of miss some things that kind of lay the context of what we're looking at. And the genealogies that are here in Genesis come right before some important things. You know, we get another genealogy, and we're going to kind of hit part of it today at the end of chapter 11, which is laying the context for Abraham. But you have these genealogies. You have that other genealogy right before the flood. That was kind of a significant event, you know, in world history. And you have that genealogy right before, and you have this genealogy here right after the flood, but before the Tower of Babel. And when you start reading it, and I'm going to read a little bit of chapter 10. We're not going to go through all of it because we don't need to go through all of it. But if there's something I want you to see in chapter 10 before we get to the Tower of Babel in chapter 11. And so I'm going to read this real quick, just the first 5 verses. So we'll get through a few goofy names. But it says, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. I love that one. Wouldn't you love to name your son Ashkenaz? Why did they name you Ashkenaz? Because my parents don't like me, that's why. Riphath and Targama, the sons of Javan, Elishash, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanim. Now notice this, verse 5. Yeah, boy named Sue. From these, the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with his what? Own language by their clans in their nations. Okay, now, so, what does, it just tells us that these people spread out according to their language. Well, where do we get the languages from? Babel, which is in chapter 11. So so right here, number one, you got this immediate question, well, languages, what's the deal? Also remember, context, where is this written? Who wrote it? Moses. Where did Moses write it? Wandering in the wilderness, preparing the people to go into the promised land. Their land, there's this repeating theme through Genesis. The land, the land, the land. Also names. Names. But you have this, that they spread out according to their language. Here's the point. The Tower of Babel happens in the middle of these genealogies.
I was about to say, I thought the whole thing with the Tower of Babel was to scramble the languages.
Right.
And all that. So so this is not taken in a timeline then.
Right.
What we're,
You're given a thing here, and see, and we'll go on. If you flip over to verse 21 in this genealogy, notice this. In 21 it says to Shem or to Sem, where we get the word Semite. Okay, it's Shemite. This is where the Semites come from. To Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, which Eber is kind of attached to Hebrew. So Shem is the father of Eber, who is the father of the Hebrews, or the Habaru, if that is, if you want to say it that way. The elder brother of Japheth, children were born. The sons of Shem, Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, Aram. The sons of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. Arpachshad, father of Shelah, and Shelah the father of Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The son of one is Peleg, which means division. Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. What divided the earth? The Tower of Babel. So when did the Tower of Babel happen? When Peleg was born. You know, Peleg's named after, so now, so you're getting this context, and you're seeing that in the middle of the genealogies, not at the end of the genealogy, but in the middle of the chapter 10 genealogy is where the tower happens. Okay, now, flip over to chapter 11, after the flood narrative, the Babylon narrative, which is verses 1 through 9, and we get another genealogy, okay? And this is a little bit more spelled out, okay? It says, these are the generations of Shem. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood, okay? And we're gonna chart this out in just a second. And Shem lived after he fathered Arpachshad 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Arpachshad had lived 35 years, he fathered Shelah. And Arpachshad lived after he fathered Shelah 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah had lived 30 years, he fathered Eber. And Shelah lived after he fathered Eber 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Eber had lived 34 years, he fathered Peleg. Okay? Now, I don't know if you ever thought about this. Get this out of the way. Let me see if I can draw it better than I wrote it out last time. I'm going to start over here, Noah. Noah lives a total of 950 years. We know that from Genesis chapter 9, verse 29. Okay. Actually, we're going to make that a little higher. years after the flood. So we can come up from here, 350 years. And there's the flood, okay? Actually, we're gonna make that higher. I'm already messing it up. We wanna make room for the other stuff. Okay. Up here, flood. Okay, so that total there is 350 years. Okay, now, over here, I'm gonna put Shem. Okay. Shem lives for 600 years.
He got short change.
He was just a baby.
Yeah. Where's the midlife crisis? Yeah. Okay. Now, we got the flood here. 2 years after the flood. 2 years. 2 years after the flood, Arphaxad is born. 2 years after the flood. Okay? 35 years after the flood, Sheila is born. 30 years, Eber. And then 34 years, Peleg. And what happens here? Tower of Babel. What's that add up to?
99 years.
Plus the 2 years, 101 years. So when does the Tower of Babel happen? 101 years after the flood. Who's alive? No.
And his daughters and wife.
His daughters and his wife. Shem is alive. Everybody that came off the boat is alive. And certainly some people got killed, got dead doing stupid stuff, because people do stupid things. But for the most part, how many of these people are alive?
A lot.
A lot. Okay. So, yeah, 101 years is a long time for us. You know, do we have some people that live past 101?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many? Not many, okay? But in this context, is 101 years a long period of time? It's a very short period of time. And so when you talk about the dispersion, guess who dispersed? Dispersed, yeah. Guess who dispersed? Noah did. I like dispersed better. Noah dispersed. Shem dispersed. Ham dispersed. Japheth dispersed. All of these people dispersed. Okay? You ever think about that before?
You think they all had different languages?
That's where the languages came from.
Well, I know, but do you think each one of the family members?
Well, that's where the peoples come from. That's where the peoples come from. You know, even the Shemites, you know, where we get the Hebrews and the, you know, all the Arab type people, Middle Eastern people, they're all Semites. Well, how many languages are over there? A lot, a lot. So yeah, the language, the division, this is a family divide. You know, it's all coming out, it's coming out of these three sons, you know, and we've got a lot of time, and they're having a lot of babies, not just a few babies, they're having a lot of babies. I mean, what else are you gonna do? I mean, you know, just saying. Yeah, didn't have television, you know, I didn't have the internet. So, you know, what the point is, that this is not outside of the context of the people coming off the boat. It is the people coming off the boat. It is their families. And remember, what did God tell Noah and his family to do when they got off the boat? Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the whole earth. Okay? The people that built the Tower of Babel are the people that God told to fill the what? The earth. Okay? Right there, that ought to start asking, leading to some questions. You know, what is going on? Why? You know, in this whole thing of be fruitful, multiply, and fill the whole earth, where was it first said? It was told in the garden. It was told to Adam and Eve in the garden, be fruitful and multiply, fill the whole earth. Now we are repopulating again, and what does God say again? Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the whole earth. Okay, now okay, now we're gonna jump ahead. God does not say, be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth, but what has he basically told the church to do?
Go into all the world.
If we did that, if we said that in Genesis terms, what would he be telling the earth, the church to do? Be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth. By the way, what happened after Pentecost? Just gotta kind of jump ahead just a second here as I'm on this rabbit trail. Where did the church go after Pentecost initially?
They dispersed.
Before they dispersed, what happened? Where did they stay? Jerusalem. And what happened to cause them to disperse? Everybody's gonna be using that word. We're gonna make a campaign to put it in the New Testament, put it in Webster's dictionary. Okay. Why did they disperse?
Pentecost.
Not because of Pentecost,
Because of Saul.
because of Saul, because of the persecution. Then they dispersed. Okay, but where did they want to stay? They wanted to stay in Jerusalem, and God says, I told you to be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth. Go ye therefore and make disciples of all nations. Get out of Jerusalem. You won't get out, so I'm gonna what? I'm gonna take Saul, I'm gonna kick you out. Okay? Put a context in it, you go back to the Bible, God told them to do what? Be fruitful and multiply and fill the whole earth. And they say, no, we like it here. But what does God do? I told you to get out. Get out. Okay. But the big thing is, before we go into this, is we gotta remember who it was that was there. It is Noah and his family that is there. Okay. And just think about that for a second. What has Noah gone through? The flood. You know, God told Noah to do something that was completely off the charts, to prepare for something that he had never seen before, and God kind of demonstrated that he knows what he's talking about, right? He's demonstrated that he's got some authority and ought to be listened to, okay? And I don't care, you know, if you live to be 950 years old, 100 years ago, this is like fresh in your mind. Okay? You know, so, you know, how is it that Noah and his family can get to this place? Okay? Because remember, the context of this is go ye therefore, be fruitful and multiply, fill the whole earth. Now, okay. Anybody want to add anything? Going once, going twice? Feel like you sound like you're at the chomp at the bit to say something. Okay. All right. So now, let's look and see the context of this. Genesis chapter 11. I'm going to read because I know where I want to stop. I'm going to read it. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1. It says, now the whole earth had one language and the same words. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And as people migrated from the east, probably better to the east, could be translated either way, and I think I agree with Dr. Silhammer that there's a movement going east, so it's probably better traveling, migrating to the east. They found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." Okay, now, so, you got these people, Shem, Noah, Ham, all these Eber, all these peoples, and in the first verse, what does it say? All the people had what?
One language. and
One
speech.
language,
Same words.
same words. Okay. One language,
They didn't have dispersed.
they had dispersed yet. They didn't have dispersed languages, okay? They had one language. Okay, what does that mean? They spoke, they spoke,
The same.
they, let's see, where are we at here? Yeah, they had, one language, okay, clear communication. They're all using the same Webster's dictionary, all got one language. One language, common language. Okay, why would he say same words? If he just said same, they all have one language, why would he turn around and say the same words?
There might be different dialects, like southern and northern.
It would be kind
All
of limited.
you all-
They use the same words to mean the same thing.
Meaning the same, using the same words to mean the same way, meaning the same thing. With same attitude, same purpose. Another word, that I saw here was the same cause. They're all speaking together the same, there's clear communication, but there is a single cause. They have a single attitude. They are together not only in language, but also in heart, okay? In other words, they're united. They're a united front. In leadership, it's not only important that you know the words, but you got to know the meaning of those words. You know, there was, what was the name of the book? Was it the Genesis Controversy? If you're familiar with Baptist history, you know that back in the 70s and 80s, there was an upsurgence of liberalism in the seminaries that was affecting the seminaries, and then you have the conservative resurgence led by Paige Patterson and different people like that. There's a book back there, I think it's called the Genesis Controversy, that chronicles how the liberal movement inside the convention got a foothold. And one of the things that they did in there is they changed the meaning of words. They would say, yes, when somebody asks you, do you affirm the inspiration of the Bible? You say yes, but in your heart you know you mean this. Okay, so the average person in the pew says, well, he affirms, he believes that the Bible is inspired. And the guy in the pew thinks he means one thing, whereas he knows he means something else. Okay, why is he covering the meaning of the word? Because he has a different purpose, he has a different cause. Okay, they are all gathered together with one language, with one cause. They are a united front. And what do we always want to be in a church? United. Okay, so they are united. Okay, this is Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as the people migrated from the east, they did what?
They found a plane.
They found a plane. Look, the plane, the plane. Boss. Okay,
We haven't spelled plane.
when,
P-L-A-I-N.
Need an I in it, after the A.
Everybody's got their own. And
You know where your mind
it's
is.
been a hard
And they
week.
have two different meanings.
Talk about.
It's not the same word.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. Okay, they found, who found? Who found?
They.
They, and they, how did they find it?
They journeyed.
They journeyed and they were looking and they found. Who did not show it?
God.
God did not show it to them, they found it. Who else found something? Genesis chapter 2 or 3. Eve found something,
Yeah.
okay? And did it turn out well?
No.
No, it did not. They found something. What's the problem? Eve did not need to go looking for herself. What did she need to be looking to? God. They did not need to go find. Who did they need to be looking to? They needed to be looking to God. But they are going and they found. Look at what I found. I found it for whom? I found it for me. Okay, they find this plane. They find this plane in the land of Shinar, and they do what? They settle there. What does God tell them to do? Go. But they find a place and they say, well, we like this place better. Now think about this. What do they have? They have the whole earth. They have the whole big stinking planet to themselves, the whole planet there before them for them to go out and occupy. But what do they say? We like this place. We like this. Okay, so God's given them everything, but what do they want?
What they want.
This little small.
Okay,
What,
who's
what
got
they
the,
found.
do what?
They want what they found.
They want what they found. In other words, who knows best?
I do.
I do. I know what's good for me. What did Eve say in the garden? This fruit's good. I know what's good for me. They are doing the exact same thing. They have found their place. They found this. They found their little piece of heaven. I want my little piece of heaven. But what has God given them?
Oh, they're
Much more than that.
All of that. They have all of a sudden, in a period of 101 years, shrunk down, God and what God is providing. They've got it down into a manageable, because really put it into a manageable bite. I can deal with this, I can deal with my little spot, but if God wants me to have everything.
So what were they supposed to do? Just keep wandering all over the world?
Not wandering,
Well, I mean, that's wandering.
going forth, going out.
But there wasn't anybody to go out to, so don't they have to sort of establish places to go out from, so they can get another place?
They had established a place to go out from, the boat.
Yeah, but that's one, and then they go over here, if you're going forth, you either go as one group, or you leave somebody behind and let them stay in that area, and then the rest of the group goes out.
And then, you do have the idea of the pioneer and the settler and stuff like that, but what they're saying remember, they are as a whole, one language and the same words, so they as a group, as a mass, are saying, this is it. We're here, we're settling here. And I want you to see, and when we get into the heart of this, so they've come to this place and they have found it, and so they're going to come let us make bricks, and burn them thoroughly, and they and they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar, and they said, come, let us build for ourselves. Okay, so where is the attention here?
On them.
On us, let us build for ourselves a city and a tower with its top into the heavens, okay? And let us make a name for ourselves. Okay, now, when they get kicked, when Adam and Eve get kicked out of the garden, then they start making babies, and they make whom? Cain and Abel. What happens? Cain kills Abel, and then what happens? They had another baby. What about Cain? What happens?
He got kicked out.
Cast out.
He gets cast out, or does he cast himself out? He really cast himself out. Okay, he says that the punishment, what God is laying down, is too hard, and he leaves. He departs and goes to where? The land of Nod, which literally means exile. He goes to a land of exile. He meets his wife there, or he has his wife. Find his wife, and what did Cain and Abel do? I mean, not Cain and Abel. Cain and his wife do. Yeah, they start having kids, and their first kid's name is Enoch. And what does Cain do after he knows his wife and starts having babies? He builds a city, and he what? He names it
After
Enoch.
himself.
Names it after his son.
Back to, them settling when God wanted them to continue on. And I'm thinking, that's how you can venture and have your mind on seeing what God has next for me. If I stay right here, I'm settling for less versus going out and seeing what else God has, and then Babylon, I'm forcing y'all to do what I wanted y'all to do in the first place.
Follow me. Yeah. They're limiting what God has for this is enough.
It's almost like when I read the Bible, when I first started it, I'm good, and now I'm closing it, versus venturing further, learning more.
Yeah, and we're gonna see, because we don't have to guess about their purpose, because the next thing we see is their purpose. But what I want you to see here is they're doing the exact same thing that Cain did. You know, and what you have this moving out, and then and even here, where if you take Cain going to Nod with his wife and building a city, where is he going from? Where was the place that they were from? From the garden. Okay, now, this is play on words, and you know, and this is the artistry in this. What does Noah do when he gets off the boat?
Plants a vineyard.
Plants a vineyard. Another word for a vineyard would be a garden. So, and then so Noah's family is now, that's the geographical spot we have, and it's described as a garden, and now they're moving away from the garden. What did Adam and Eve and Cain do? Same thing, they moved away from the garden. There's this recurring theme over and over of building and having a name, building up a name for yourself, or building up the name of God, and this recurring thing of the land and the garden. And remember, one of my little things in the back of my mind is that the promised land is where? The garden. The garden. You know, and so you have this thing, they're coming back. Israel is coming back to the garden. It's an Edism.
Right.
And it's not an original Edism,
Right.
but that is an opinion that I have for good reasons. You know, and if you go back to, if you're going back to, finish Revelation a while back, if you want to understand what the eternal state looks like, where are we going to look to find that? The garden. What did life look like in the garden? That's what eternity is going to look like, is the same. So you've got this thing of the land, the garden, over and over and over again. Because remember, why is Moses writing this for the Israelites? To prepare them for what? The promised land. The promised land. He's tying all of this together. He's giving them their context. Okay, so I want to remove them quickly because I want to kick this around. I want to kick around some points here. So they found this place for themselves. They're going to build themselves a city and a what? A tower, a ziggurat, not a cigarette, but a ziggurat, up to heaven. And then we get to the whole heart of the matter. Come, let us build, for this verse 4, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top into the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. Make, whose name should we be proclaiming and raising? God's. Who should they be raising? Whose name should they be raising? God's. But who do they want to raise up? Themselves. So we're seeing the heart of it. Then, comma, lest we be what?
Scattered.
Dispersed.
Yep.
So there they are disobeying God.
Yeah.
And they know it.
Over the face of the whole earth. God said dispersed, and we said we're gonna build ourselves a city. I'm gonna have to be using that from now on. We're gonna build ourselves a city so that we are not dispersed. I like that word. Okay, what did God say? Dispersed. And we say what?
No.
No. No, I will not. No, I will not. Noah will. Noah will.
I get it.
It took a second.
It hit.
That one just came to me as I was saying. Okay, you know. So they found a good place, and God had for them what? A better place, a great place. And they said, this is good enough. We want this. And I want this. Even though God says, I have all of that. God said the whole world is good for you. And they said what?
I'm good.
No, this place is good for me. Who is to tell them what is good? God is, but now what are they doing?
Looking to themselves.
They're looking to themselves to figure out what is good. And in so doing, in building up this city with this great tower, I'm going to have what for myself?
A name.
A name. A name. We will be known as. We will be known as the people with the big city and the big tower. We rent this city. You think I had Grace Slick out there? We rent this city. You can tell who the Evans and
Here you're talking about airplanes again.
At least the younger ones.
At that point,
That
it
was
was
a
Starship.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah, that was
Starship
Starship.
at that point.
I'm old.
I thought you were saying built this city on rock and roll.
Well, that's what I was getting
Except it was bricks.
Well, yeah, it's you know who the very first rock and roll artist was in the world?
Oh, I'm scared to ask.
I agree.
David.
Yep, he's.
Oh,
He
that's
took the
right.
rock and he rolled the giant.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
That's brother Dave.
That's a brother Dave Gardner. I have that album, I had that album, that comedy album. Anyway, so, all right. So here's the thing. How easy is it to go from trusting God to trusting yourself?
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very easy.
Too easy if you take your focus off God.
Do you think they thought they had taken their focus off?
No.
They thought they were following God. I don't think that there was a thing to God. You know, we had a conversation, and I'm not gonna, I I don't think we ought to, I'm not gonna share the content of that conversation, but we had a conversation over at your house. We can very quickly get to a place where we're not trying to promote God, but we're trying to promote self, thinking that we're promoting God. It's a very easy path to follow. I remember when I was still pastoring in St. Mary's, and you've heard me talk about Ben and Julie Agee. She died from ovarian cancer. They were missionaries in Honduras. And we were going through a very, very dark time in the church, and we were on vacation up in the mountains, and we spent every single night of that vacation. This is a terrible way for a pastor to have to spend a vacation, but we spent every single night of that vacation on the phone with Ben and Julie praying over the church because of what was going on. And we were talking about, you know, how to get the church in line with the will of God. And, you know, we had one language and we had the same words. And but it was so easy that we would end up having to stop ourselves because we went from promoting to God to how to make this or that program work. You know, and then if we do this, then this will happen or what. And, you know, and we were like, wait a second, we're doing exactly what we are trying to fight in the church. You know, it was so easy for us to drop back into that mentality about things. And, you know, I think it's very important for us to realize it doesn't matter. Look at what Noah went through with God. You know, it took him, well, we figure out it took him about 120 years to build that boat. Then he goes through everything he went through with God, and then in just a short 100 years, what is he doing? He's saying, I will not be dispersed. I will make a name great. I will make a name for myself. Whereas, you know, and he went through all of that. You see, if it's that easy for him, how easy is it for us to get things flipped around and start promoting self and say, I know better. Another one thing, how easy is it for us to go from letting God tell me what is good to me telling God what is good?
It seems to me that in that group that claimed that plain, this is our place, there would be those in that group who thanked God for it, who thanked him for leading them there. You know, and then just like any church group or community, there are those who are led by the group who don't realize that they're being led by the group. They think this is God's will.
Yeah, I mean, I think, how hard is it to be that one person to say, but wait, this is not what God said?
There's always been a remnant, you know, and throughout everything in the Bible, there was always that.
There's always that remnant.
Right, so, but then again, we've been doing our own stuff since the beginning of time.
Right.
You know, thinking that we're, you know, we know more than God does.
Yeah.
Or what's better for us.
Yeah, I think even, the thing is, I mean, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but the realization here is we can be walking with God and still get out of step. We can be faithful and still get out of step and get things flipped around. And if we're not, and we can get it flipped around thinking we're following God. And that's the scary thing, is we can get into a great place of disobedience thinking we're following God. You know, look at, okay, look at the broader thing of, what's going on in the church in America right now. Have you heard the garbage that's going on in the Presbyterian Church USA? Affirming polyamorous relationships in the clergy. They're having their convention right now. And there was a recommendation put forth saying that the clergy must be in monogamous relationships. Steve, is that not obvious?
Right.
Guess what? It failed. And you have practicing pastors in the PCUSA right now, and one is a female pastor that is in a three-way relationship. And they're praising God while they're doing it.
What God?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Because the PCA, and I want to be careful, because when we start throwing rocks at other denominations, we're going to hit some of our windows on the way out, okay? But they also voted just this week to affirm gender, no, beyond that, gender, surgeries for minors.
Oh, my word.
Transgender.
Transgender surgery, gender affirming surgeries for minors. And I don't mean somebody that goes under the ground with a pickaxe. And all the time thinking they're serving God.
How do they think they're serving God?
That's a good question. That is a really good question. But we don't want to throw the stones too hard, lest we find ourselves doing the exact same thing.
Well, let's throw them hard.
They
Clean 'em all.
don't know the Bible, that's the problem.
Yeah, they're preaching politics.
Yeah,
But let's be careful of saying they.
Yeah.
Let's be very careful when we say they, because we're not that far from having to say we. I mean, we're having our own issues, inside of our own denomination. That's why I want to be careful when we start throwing rocks at other places, as much fun as it is. And when we start saying, how could they get to that place? Well, as soon as I say, how could they get to that place, what am I saying about myself? I could never get to that place. Yeah, I can't. I want to be very, very careful in doing that. I agree, but they think they know their Bible.
Well, they're following things they hear that tickle their ears. I mean, it's.
Yeah, and I witnessed this with my own two eyes. I was, my first year at Southeastern, there was every fall they would invite a theologian from the other side to come in and do a debate. And it was a debate between Paige Patterson and a gentleman by the name of Stanley Herawas. Stanley Herawas was the head of theology department at Duke University. And Duke is, if you don't know the history of Duke is actually a Methodist college, okay? He was the head of the theology department there. And he was in there, and they were really debating the issue of should the Bible be in the hands of the masses. And Dr. Herawas was arguing from a point that the Bible needed to stay in the hands of the clergy, and the clergy needed to tell the masses what the Bible says. Okay? Sounds kind of Catholic to me, actually. As the debate went on, it was open to questions from the floor, and it was becoming very clear. I remember Dr. Galliotti, the next day we're talking about it in Old Testament class, and he comes in and he says, yeah, class, when I was watching that thing, I first started out, I'm like, that guy's just about 2 fries short of a Happy Meal. And then I realized, no, he's just a heretic, and that's the way Dr. Galliotti taught, okay? And he was. I mean, this guy it wasn't just crazy, he was a heretic. One of our students got up to the microphone because they had place of asking questions, and he says, Dr. Herawas, I am so thankful for you coming here this morning or this evening and sharing with us and stuff, and I appreciate it, and you giving me all these insights, but as I have listened to you talk over the last hour, I have become very concerned about your salvation and where you will spend eternity. Dr. Herawas, could you please tell me, when you die, where are you going? Are you going to heaven or hell, and why? Dr. Herawas looked at him and began to laugh. And then said, son, I have gotten to a place of beyond the superstitions of heaven and hell.
What?
The head of the theology department at Duke University,
Oh my God.
Oh, I should be there after that.
many years. Very respected theologian in the world. Okay?
Yeah, respect what I do. When you get to these.
At that time, if you wanted a very respected, powerful talking head to come and talk on your television thing, you got Dr. Herawas.
Yeah, Ed, when a church is focused on the Lord and in the Word and reading the Word, you're not gonna stray off into whether it be political tangents or self-motivated tangents. You're gonna wanna do what God wants you to do. And what's really interesting here in this verse to me, going down one, it says, if as one people speak in the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them.
In their eyes,
So that's going, you can do
They want-
anything, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, God's seeing the power of unity.
Yeah.
He's saying, I need to go down there and disrupt
You
that.
see, and I love what Dr. John MacArthur says. He says, we find our unity around what we believe about God. That's where we find our unity. If we're not united by that, then it's okay if we're not united, because we have to be united about the right thing. They were united, but they were united around a wrong thing. You know, and with the stuff with PCUSA and everything, those are extremes. You know, and like, we can say, we'll never go there. We may never go there, but where can we get in our own walk where we're saying, no, God, where we are beginning to dictate? I found myself in places like that. I found myself in places where I thought I was doing what God wanted me to do, and I thought I knew, but I was really dictating, God, you need to do this. You need to do this. You know, as I was coming in this morning, I was just thinking back over some of my ministerial experiences, and some of the problems that I had in ministry, honestly, came out of, God, I know better. I know better. I know that this will be a better situation for me or for my family. And guess what? Every single time when it came to a place where I thought I knew better, what did I find out? I found out I was wrong. I found out I was wrong. But I thought I was following God in the process. Now here's the wonderful thing, and I have to say this, even in those places where I was wrong and I suffered the consequences, you know who supported me and lifted me up the whole time?
God.
God did. God did. And you know, that's one of the wonderful things. You remember, who was the executive pastor here when Merritt was here? He came from.
Terry Harold?
Huh?
Terry Harold?
No.
This tall blonde-headed guy.
Yeah, the tall blonde-headed guy. He came from
Dan Greer?
Dan Greer. I did my last interview to be licensed in the church with Dan. And I'm telling him my story and everything, and it's a very Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road kind of story, you know, everything's just clear. And Dan stopped me, and he says, Ed, he says, that's great, it's clear that God's working in your life, we're gonna license you. He said, but I want you to understand something. You need to get to the place where you understand that even if you make the wrong decision, God's got you. Because as time goes on, things don't get more clear. A lot of times they get a lot more fuzzy. And sometimes you just have to kind of walk through a partially open door, knowing that even if it's the wrong decision, God still has you. And that was something I was told, but then I learned it. I learned it in reality. I think the thing that we have to be careful of in this. Another one that I put down is how easily do we go from saying yes, Lord, to saying no, Lord? Think about Peter.
About Jonah.
Yeah, think about, Jonah, that's basically what he said, no, I will not. But, with Peter walked with Jesus all these years, but then he says, no, Lord. He can't say no, Lord. Either he's Lord or he's not. But Peter finds himself even walking with Jesus the way that he walked with him, still saying no, Lord. How easily can we go from a place of enjoying all of God's blessings to just wanting to hang on to the one little thing? That's another thing that where I've suffered the consequences is hanging on to something that God gave me that I wasn't supposed to hang on to. But, I found I then began to find my purpose and my security in that thing, so I gotta hang on to that thing when God is saying no, hang on to me. And I think that's kind of what they're doing here, is they found that this is a good place. Boy, it's got a nice view. We got the pretty sunrises, there, and but there's a waterfall, it's like, they're like, this is great, this is good, I'm gonna hang on to this. And then what does God do?
I'm gonna disrupt you.
Yeah, I'm gonna disrupt and I'm gonna disperse. Because you're going to follow me and hang on to me. And, and I'm not sure exactly how to, I don't think there is a silver bullet that said this is how you do that. I think it's very important for us to be very cognizant of the fact of how easy it is to start looking to self, thinking that we're looking to God. You might want to add any thoughts, rebuttals, life experiences.
Isn't that the purpose of Satan? Everything with God, he's gonna start working on, putting doubts in your mind.
Doubts.
That's when we need to pray the most.
Yeah. What do you say, Mark?
I said he's a counterfeit, that's the whole thing with Satan. Try to convince us that, a thought is right or whatever and all that, and it's always a counterfeit.
Yeah.
It's always a counterfeit from what God has for us.
I think it's just, as Dan said, I think it's very important to stay in his word.
Absolutely.
The Bible doesn't speak directly to everything, but when you're staying in your word, it does put the radar up. And it begins to, when something's not right, it puts that warning, danger, Will Robinson.
That was a good.
Now I got the right generation.
That's old people. I lost
You
the
hear that
space.
too, huh?
Yeah.
And we're told that it's gonna happen even more because it's the end times, there's more and more false teachers, and we've
Yeah.
got to learn discernment.
Yeah, and it's not just the discernment for what's out there, but it's discernment on what's going on in here.
And when to say, get behind me, say.
Yeah, yeah. So. Who wants to pray?